I'm Etienne Abelin, and we're just talking a bit about what's going on in the classical music world, what we've been up to, what's going on, what's coming up here. So, question to you: what has been up recently? What have you been doing? What have you been working on? What are you looking forward to most in the next few
Quite
weeks?
a bit. First of all, I'm Dr. James Isaacs of the Hull School in Zurich, just across the lake here. You can almost see it. And also YAAF. And we've got a lot going on. First of all, we're looking forward to the tonhalleLATE on the 24th of June, right here at the Tonhalle. We're going to be bringing a big group of students and parents from Hulls, as we always do, to hear Helene Grimaud play the Brahms B-flat Piano Concerto No. 2.
That's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. It's one of my very favorite pieces. For me, it's the greatest piano concerto ever written.
But doesn't it pulls your soul out?
It does.
You can't really stand afterwards.
It is a deeply moving piece. It's really almost a symphony for orchestra and piano,
Right.
in 4 movements, which is unusual, and of course an incredible pianist. And that's with Lionel Branier, so we're looking forward to a great concert. And we'll have a big group of students here. Also, we're working a lot in my music classes at Hulls with the new Music Eyes software, which you're a part of, which allows students to actually construct their own visual animations of music, which is an exciting way to help them learn. And
Right.
then, just this last weekend and early this week, I was here for David Zinman's 7th annual conducting masterclass. This was fascinating. 8 young conductors from around the world got to conduct the Tonhalle Orchestra with the help and input from Maestro David Zinman. Really a fascinating time. So what are you up to?
Well, I just want to, ask you about working with the Music Eyes with this new software. You have used it now with students. Students have visualized a piece by Vivaldi.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first assignment.
Right.
What's been your experience?
Well, it's unprecedented and it's amazing because it allows them to actually get into the music, roll up their sleeves and get their arms into the music and manipulate the software to reflect what's happening in the music so that they really learn the music. They don't learn about the music, they actually learn the music itself. And short of mastering an instrument and playing the music themselves, there's nothing else like it. They absolutely love it. We did Spring, first movement of Spring from Vivaldi, 4 Seasons, and then we did a movement of a Mozart symphony where they learned sonata form, and they'll be going forward with some romantic and some impressionist pieces now too. And it also, as a teacher, it gives me an incredible insight into how my students think, because every student thinks differently, they react to music differently, and you can't necessarily get this from a white paper with writing on it in a conventional assignment. It's very, very useful to see how they use colors and shapes in time to express themselves.
And of course, your feedback and the students' feedbacks gives us a great insight on how to further develop this software, further develop the project. So this is wonderful.
It's very much a work in progress.
Yeah,
it's good
totally.
to be a part of it.
It's R&D. It's research and development. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing here.
And I'm very grateful to have the support of Hull School and Mr. Hall in all of these endeavors that we're doing.
So you asked me what I did in the last few weeks. I was in Rotterdam. I went to the ClassicalNext conference. The ClassicalNext conference was in its 5th year. Fantastic conference, recommended to everybody. The whole industry is there, many orchestra representatives, and the perspective is again an R&D perspective, like what's happening, what's going on in our field of music, of classical music. And so one thing we did with a group of friends is we kicked off a international indie classical network this year. Indie classical as a mindset of doing things slightly differently, an open mindset of going into different spaces with classical music, presenting it differently, doing new music in a different way, cross-genre often. So we had a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement internationally. We have people from New World Symphony in Miami, from Manchester Camerata, from Tallinn Music Week, Estland, Musica Strania, Brazil, Classical Music Rave, Amsterdam, all joining forces and thinking about how we could help this emerging movement really build up steam and build up momentum. And of course, tonhalleLATE is a prime and one of the biggest and most successful examples of exactly that mindset and that spirit.
It is. Interestingly, you said trying to do things slightly different in the future. The fact is that they were done slightly different in the past.
Right.
If you went and saw the first performance of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, people were clapping in the middle of the movements. They were repeating sections of the movement. It wasn't quite the way we might think it was, and it doesn't have to be.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good. Actually, what we're reconnecting with a spirit of musicianship that's not brand new at all. That's actually something that's been going on, and that's sort of, how would you say, it's solidified into rituals that have been static for a long time, and we're in a way reconnecting to something earlier.
Right, and interestingly enough, if you went back in time, musicians from the Tonhalle Orchestra were playing in beer gardens and restaurants all over town. They were playing what we call classical pieces. Then they would come here and play an orchestra concert. Yes, they were.
Fantastic.
In fact, the term classic just means the pieces that were constantly played. Over time, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Bach was played all the time, but the name classic didn't really originate until the late 19th century.
Right.
Beethoven never heard the term, Mozart never heard the term. And so taking classical musicians and classical pieces into nightclubs, into coffee houses, this is going back to the way that it always was. So it's sort of back to the future in a way.
Back to the future, I think that's a great way of ending this little preview of what's coming. Also, not to forget, in the Young Artist Advice Forums and everything around it, we're going to experiment with 360-degree cameras, things like that. Very exciting stuff happening, and really looking forward to the coming weeks, the coming months.
Yes, and don't forget, we're going to have a Young Artists Advice Forum earlier in the day. On the tonhalleLATE day, we're going to have some students, some musicians, and Helene Grimaud here talking about music, talking about how music relates to everything else in life, because it's not a separate thing, it's part of life. And it should be a fascinating talk, so don't miss that. Look for that Young Artists Advice Forum, June 24, coming up.
Back to the future.
Back to the future.